I think I have to turn my chair now. I think we've set up this precedent.
This is like the Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Malcolm, welcome back.
It's good to be here.
Good to see you at the bar.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to struggle.
Really?
Yeah.
Nervous?
I'm nervous. There's a few things going on in the world that you don't really care about, but I do, and I'm having a hard time dealing with it.
I'm going to need you to reel it in.
I am.
All right? And focus.
I'm going to.
I'm going to need you to fuff. Just like the crew, okay? Try before we die, everybody. Welcome back. This is a regular episode. I'm here with Malcolm. I'm Colin. And we're here with our friend and guest, Ethan from Acker Wines, an international auction house and retail operation focused on wine and spirits.
The best wine and spirits.
The best wine and spirits. We're going to learn a little bit more about Ethan and the relationship he has with the show here in just a minute. But in order to get that whiskey breathing,
we got to pick a number.
We ought to pick a number. Now, Ethan, will you hold the button down until you determine to let it go, and it will tell us where we're going for a bottle.
I need one of these. All right.
Ooh. Bottle number 136. So that's actually going to put me just to your left, Ethan. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get up and go ahead and get that bottle. Bottle 136 puts us on the front side of the chimney shelves. We know we're at 98, and if we bring it down to 136, we're at 128 here, and we're at 136. A Glenrothes, everybody. This is the Maker's Cut. This is a Speyside Single Malt Whisky. They're talking to us about vanilla, orange, and nutmeg. This is a no-age statement. Looks like I'm going to have to get a set of glasses, but you know that I'm not. I think maybe this could be a 48%. We're going to double-check at the bar. But this is a release that has come out, I believe, in the last year from Glenrothes. And as we know, the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch bottle, one of the favorites around here. In fact, if you toggle back, you could find a WTF episode of the Glenrothes and learn a little bit more about that distillery. We'll see you at the bar. Malcolm, I forget. Your favorite region?
Side.
I got a bottle in my hand.
Not
just for you, but
for us.
A Glenrothes, a Speyside offering.
And haven't we just done one? Or did we do a...
We did a
special
WTF.
No, but didn't we do a special episode?
We did a 95.
Okay.
Glenrothes recently. We opened one, we pulled. So this is the Maker's Cut. This is entirely aged entirely in first fill sherry oak. And bottled at 48.8 ABV. So I'm always excited, Ethan, when we're not at that 40%, because I feel like we're going to sort of up some of our flavor experiences.
Exactly. I like sherry whiskeys. I like sherry whiskeys with high alcohol.
So I'm going to just get this opened, breathing, and we'll chat a little bit.
Yes, because there's a couple questions I have.
Okay. Now, again, everybody, if you're not familiar, it's your first time with us. We open these bottles. There is no pre-planning, no research in advance. If the bottle comes up, we open it. And this was bottle 136 on our shelf. Glenrothes, established in 1879, according to here. Now, shh, we like the cork pull.
Ooh.
Squeaky tight.
Yeah. That's almost like 40 for a second.
Very poppy. I didn't lube the cork. Sorry, Mitch. So there's not a lot of aroma on that cork. We're going to get some poured and capped, and we'll chat. The Glenrothes, no age statement, Maker's Cut, 48.8, Speyside whiskey. No, I didn't just taste it in advance.
No,
I just needed to get something off my hand.
Yes, that was just a dribbler.
Just, those of you who know me are not surprised. You can no longer say you're unbelievable to me.
No.
You can only say you're believable.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yes. So, well, we've got our whiskey breeding.
Yep.
And are loosely capped so that the aroma can expand and then come back down to a nosing point. You said you had a question.
I do, because this is sort of new to me in the sense that I was given some information, but I wasn't given the entire story. So, of course, I arrived today, and I look around, and next thing I know, it's a little bit different. There's a little bit more of a vibe on the set. And come to find out, we have a guest.
We do. We have Ethan from Acker Wines.
And this guest is someone that I know that you have been in contact with, but I would like to know, sir, how did you find this guy in the way that you deal with all these people, important people in the spirits industry, and you happen to come across this guy on a YouTube channel or Facebook page, I don't know which one it was, and you're like, hey, I'm going to get in touch with him.
Well, you want the backstory?
I do want the backstory.
I have my version, but I'd like to see if we line up.
It was your post. So I have to spend a fair amount of time on social media, just tracking.
It's part of the job.
Yeah, tracking trends, who's drinking what's available, new releases. And every once in a while you see a post that catches your eye. It could be a collection, it could be a bottle, hey, where'd you get that? And I'm not exactly timid about pinging people. And he posted a picture, essentially, of the bitter end, I guess?
Yeah, of the bar. I put 2 posts up of this shot and of the snooker room.
And I said, what is this? This looks like a guy I got to meet. Because when you see people who dedicate a part of their house, which can cause some family turbulence, to say the least, when you say, hey, I'm going to take a third of the house and make it my own, there's things that come along with that. So when you see that successfully executed, you have to say to yourself,
Successfully executed.
I need to know this person.
Yeah.
I need to find out what's going on here. And that's...
Your story is lining up with my memory, too. I put this post up. It blew up on that page, which has 38,000 plus members.
I don't even recall the... Was it whiskey and bourbon?
It's Scotch Addict.
It was a Scotch Addict.
Yep. And that post was, and for me, that blew up with like 900 plus likes and loves and comments and wows. And not that this is a wow experience because, I live here, but it was nice. And there was a lot of posts about, oh, I want to go there. Will you be my new best friend? A lot of funny stuff, right? And it was validating. But Ethan, you reached out to me privately, both via the in-page messaging, but as well, you did enough of your own homework to sort out my email, and also sent me an email.
Yeah. So a lot of people aren't familiar with what I do for a living, and it takes offense and defense, and sometimes, you have to think back. I started my career in bars. And I think, you remember that book, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten?
Yes, Robert Fuld.
I think everything I needed to learn in life, I learned in a bar. Yeah. And every once in a while, it behooves one to stand up, hold their head up, stick their hand out, and introduce themselves, whether it's a whiskey collector or whether it's a beautiful woman.
You got nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Exactly. Yep. So you stand out and you say, hey, this is who I am. Yeah. And I don't know where this may lead, but how you doing? Yeah. And apparently it leads to New Hampshire. I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. So
we exchanged some emails. You introduced yourself professionally, and we went back and forth. I imagine you did your research. We did our research. It felt okay. It felt safe. Of course, this is my home, right? And so there had to sort of be like that trepidation, okay. And I said to my wife, hey, I'm going to have this man up to be on the whiskey show. And my wife is tolerant.
Yeah. No.
Does it stop me?
No, not one bit.
All she said was, okay. She said, you feel okay about it? And I said, I feel okay about it. And we stayed in touch. We sorted out some dates. we both communicated with our families, and it fell into place.
Yep.
And here we are.
And I think at the end of the day, regardless of what you do or what I do, having a conversation over whiskey is what I live for. So.
Yeah, it's. I agree. Having another voice that's knowledgeable at the bar brings information that can never be taken away and be utilized moving forward.
It's fun, and
Yep.
they were asking me how I fell into this.
Yep.
And talking about the pre-Google days, where you had to learn by speaking. I mean, you had to have a conversation. There was, at that time, there were maybe 5 whiskey books, one of which I commented on, the Michael Jackson
Yes.
book, which was, been my kind of go-to since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else was sitting down and talking to somebody who comes at it from a different point of view. And if you do it right, I don't want to quote Bill Cosby here, but, remember the tagline in the show? Fat Albert, if you're not careful, you might learn something. Wasn't it? Was something like that? At the end of the Fat Albert song.
I always thought it was, hey, Bamba, be bomb to go down, but to play the basketball. But that was Dumb Donald. That wasn't Fat Albert.
But I will say,
But yeah, I think
it was if you're not careful, you're
Right.
going to learn something.
Right. I think that was the thing, which was that your exposure to situations increases your knowledge.
Yes.
Right. And so that education is all around us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fun part about today, I'm a huge fan of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society bottlings.
Yep.
Because they're essentially blind.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. They're labeled in a cryptic way.
That if you can just prevent yourself from going on and doing your homework, it essentially forces you to have a blind tasting or forces you to kind of clear the slate.
Yes.
This does the same exact thing. Yes, I can see it.
Yeah.
And I can have a couple of preconceptions, but I'm not ready.
Right.
I'm still off guard.
Right, the random, the way we draw our bottles here,
Yeah.
right, that we don't do research in advance and sort of enlighten the audience and, based on, this is what we know, we've done all our research, this is what you're looking for. We're surprised too at what we pull.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going to a friend's house for dinner. What do we have? I have no idea.
Yeah.
How long is it going to be? No clue.
Yeah. But I trust the circumstance enough to be like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, what do they tell you to do in like corporate America? Trust the process.
Right.
Yeah. Trust the process. And I will say, because I've been privy to some of the conversations backstage, as we will put it, Ethan is a very interesting man. There's a lot to him. And I've only been, what's it been, an hour or two maybe? Yeah. Those hour or two, the conversations that you've actually had has been so educational from someone from my background, where I'm just here for the drink, and I have a great friend who allows me to do it, and there are certain things I know obviously, but a lot of stuff I just do is off the cuff. It's what I'm experiencing. So to hear it come back or get validated, like I said, I am privy to a couple of things that obviously our viewers are not at the moment. It's amazing talking to someone who has so much love for what you do. That's excellent.
One of our points, in prepping for and we're going to get to this whiskey here very shortly. One of our points, Ethan, was to remind ourselves that what we're doing for fun, you do for a living, right? Not that you don't do it for fun, but you swim in this sun up to sundown on probably many days. And though some of us here on this team swim in it, we're fluent, right? You spend, this is a big
bread and
piece
butter.
of your life.
This is my bread and butter. It's a hobby. It's a passion.
Yeah.
But that's also why, every once in a while you just kind of crack and you have a Bud Light and you're like, I can't think about this anymore.
I gotta tone this down.
I gotta just stop. I want to drink something where I don't have to think.
Right.
And that is a hard thing to do.
Yep.
To even have a glass of wine and say, can I just have a glass of wine without exploring the aromas and the flavor
Right,
in my mouth?
and to just enjoy it and not be like, what is that there? I know that feeling.
Yeah,
I know that feeling. If I just want to have a drink, I don't want to think about it. I don't want somebody to ask me what they think about it.
What did he think?
And I have a series of bottles that I have that I will go to the liquor store and I will buy, and
You're just drinking.
I'm just drinking.
Yep. But today we're going to ask Ethan what he thinks.
We
of
are.
this.
I'm
We're
really
gonna
going to
ask
put him. I'm
ourselves.
really going to put him on
Yeah.
the record
Yeah.
spotlight.
So we're gonna get into this Glenrothes. Here you go, bud. We're gonna get into this Glenrothes Maker's Cut.
And I do like the holy hand grenade at Yuck, by the way. I hope that reference is not lost on anybody watching.
We plant a lot of Easter eggs, and so we hope. So we are being led to look for creamy vanilla, orange peel, and nutmeg by the master whiskey maker. It says here, matured only in first fill sherry seasoned oak, bottled at natural color and at the strength selected by our master whiskey maker, and that's at 48.8. A no age statement Glenrothes sherry whiskey. Speyside Glenrothes. I think we can talk a little bit about color. Mal, will you go?
You can definitely pick up the reddishness that you'd get from a sherry cask. I mean, this is a deeper color than we've seen in past episodes. It's got that ambery golden.
I like the ambery gold. I like that. I absolutely pick up on some of that gold foundation, and it may just be the light for me, but a gold foundation and an amber top. Ethan, where are you landing?
I don't see any mahogany. So, we're not going into that over-aged where it's been in the sherry just
Right.
too long, or even a wet barrel, which if you've seen, people are really pursuing sherry whiskeys now.
Mm-hmm.
Things like the Glendronach or
Mm-hmm.
the Kragalaki. Have you
Yes.
seen those
Yeah,
yet?
we just actually got a distiller's edition here, but
Where they're so dark.
Right.
They really...
begun to get into that sort of that rubbed leather, right?
Yeah, that super dark
tobacco
here.
leaf.
So here, I'm just not seeing that darkness, which also leads that they left some actual whiskey flavor.
And so one of the things, and I know we're going to get to a nose here, but again, while we have an expert, when we talk about no age statement, so we know it must be at least 3. And I tend to be in the camp of a no age statement generally will be under 10. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, yes, but sometimes maybe.
Yeah, okay.
The notion that a distillery, whether you're talking Scotland, America, or even new, makes a conscious decision to put out a subpar product. It's not happening.
Agreed.
All right?
Right, I'm not reflecting on age statement and performance. Right, yes.
So you're going to want something good. So when you take the no age statement out, yes, we can go substantially younger, but it also gives the blender the freedom to add something older. Right? We just can't put that number on that.
Because it has to be the youngest whiskey in the bottle.
Right. So
Right.
it would behoove you to leave it as a no age statement instead of saying put it out as an 8-year-old or 6-year-old.
Right.
Which
The,
you have a
the
Wee
Wee
Beastie. You have a Wee Beastie right behind you. If you remember, the old Little Mills were 8 years old. If you're a fan of Isla, it's a delicate smoke molecule, so it breaks down over time, which is why like a 30-year-old Lafroig is not particularly smoky at all.
Yep.
So there are times in the whiskey world where you aim low.
Right.
You really want it. You want to keep that youthful vibrancy. So when a distillery takes the statement off and puts it out as no age statement, I think of it. I just wrote a piece on little barrels versus big barrels. Yeah. It's not that one is better than the other. It's the marriage. So think about having a classroom full of unattended adults, children, right? Mm-hmm. Ton of personality, and an absolute disaster. Right. Put in a couple of well-placed adults, and the situation changes, and you have...
Because more well-managed.
Controlled.
Right. Still has life and vibrancy, but perhaps not as chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
More refined.
When we look at a no-age statement whiskey, look at the freedom of marriage and relationship open up versus just trying to get something young out.
He knows that.
So that's what you're doing. Because old whiskeys don't particularly taste that great anyway. So if you have a whiskey that's over 20 years old and it's got all those big, rich sherry notes, but it's flat, and maybe it's even fallen under 40, so we can't sell it anyway. You add a little bit of that, to some 6-year-old whiskey,
And all of a sudden you got something
you have
special.
this kind of bastardized Solera method, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, we've got something. Thanks for that. Feel like I learned something.
Oh, I definitely did.
All right. Well, let's. We've done color. Let's do a little nose on this Glenrothes Maker's Cut, right? Maker's Cut. Maker's Cut. Entirely sherry oak. Right there, it is. Initially, a little burn in the nostril.
Yep.
Calms down after the first pull. Sherry very present.
Yeah, very sweet.
Ethan, I think I would be, though it's maturing a little bit, I'm hopeful that immaturity doesn't come into the conversation.
I don't think so. ABV will come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that you can, when you take a big draw off it, you can definitely like, oh.
It really has calmed down from those first pulls where I worried about immaturity, and it really has relaxed.
I'm trying to get rid of a thought in my head. Glenrothes was acquired by Edrington
Okay.
pretty recently, and that's Macallan. So I keep looking for that Macallan sherry, which is that sulfuric note, and it's not here. So I am happy that it's taking on its own personality.
Well, I appreciate that because I do. I agree. This 48.8 I think is gonna be a player in this tasting.
Yeah. Like I said, you take a good pull on it, and you can definitely.
It still has calmed. Would you agree, Malcolm? It has calmed down from those first
Yes.
nosings. And that's the value, everybody, of the lid, right? To trap that aroma as it expands and then contracts back down, so you can sort of have that explosion of a nosing, and then as it opens up to really find that the way it matures just in that 15 or 20 seconds as it breathes. The sherry is so clear,
Yes.
and they're saying nothing but first fill sherry cask.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm getting the orange and citrus they mentioned.
Yeah, orange peel, vanilla, and nutmeg.
I'm getting more of a nutty, almost Brazil nut, macadamia nut.
I'm not getting the orange peel for sure.
No.
Maybe some faint vanilla. And I can agree with you on the nuttiness.
Yeah, in the middle of this, when you take a whiff of it, the middle bit, there's a hint of vanilla in there. Just a hint.
Yeah, it's like a vapor.
But it is very pleasant smelling.
Again, it has calmed down.
Yep.
And so again, I'm going to be very curious about that first pull as to what that 48.8 ABV brings us. Mal, are you ready?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Ethan, are you ready for a
I
taste of
am.
this? All right, let's have a taste.
Cheers, gentlemen. Oh, yeah.
It certainly went down easier than I imagined a 48, almost a 49 would go. It's still residing right here in my upper chest. Mm-hmm. It was, and not a critical word, everybody, it was a little thin to begin. It didn't expand hugely, but it's still lasting inside my upper chest and perhaps on the bottom of the back of my tongue. Malcolm?
I'm going to change it up a little bit. Based on the ABV, you're right. There isn't too much on the front end of this. But it's, for me, there was almost like a hurdle just before it headed down your throat. It was like almost like, there it is, I'm about to get kicked. And it just eases itself back down. And then you get this wondrous heat that just warms you up just enough. And then you get the full flavor of the taste right in that back part of your mouth. But there was that slight hurdle just as I was trying to think, am I going to get over this? And then it just goes away. And then it goes right down.
Ethan, what's your experience with
That
this?
is classic Glenrothes.
All
I
right.
would say that I can taste the house style.
Right.
Clearly.
Right. The spirit itself, the way it's aged is that sherry, but this distillate, right? This is a Glenrothes distillate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and I understand what they're going for. I would like to see and I'm a cast strength kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's matching the sherry right now, so I would actually put water on this one.
Interesting.
And cut that down a little bit. That is going to go with your dark chocolate over there.
Yeah.
And because of higher ABV, it's going to cut fat. So if you have a nice fatty piece of chocolate, that's going to work very well. That is a dessert whiskey if there ever was one.
Yes.
I'll absolutely agree with this dessert idea. I am on board with the Glenrothes, the distillate. This is the foundational spirit that's been aged entirely in these sherry casks. I'll be curious what the water does in terms of my experience of that thin beginning and that moderate ending.
Yeah.
And so see what that balances out to.
I'd be very curious of what this... I'm curious about the orange zest they put, or the
orange peel
that they put on the label. I'm still not getting any.
I don't have any citrus either.
So I'm going to throw a question out to you because then we have an expert in the bar. So we'll go this route. Do you find that for most of your tastings you pull flavors that are supposed to be there, or do you find that you have to hunt, or is it something along maybe 50-50? Because I go through the thing when they're saying sometimes I have a very hard time picking out some of the flavorings that are there.
I am not a big fan of tasting notes to begin with.
Okay.
Just because the science, and you play with the human psyche. Out of all the senses that we as people have, your sense of smell is that closest tied to memory.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. True statement.
So, with that being said, when you read, especially, and no offense to your origins, tasting notes that have been written in the UK, where they say things like Christmas cake or treacle or things like that, I can assure you, as a person from New Jersey, I have never had either.
Yeah.
All right? Or when they say something is biscuity or something like that. Even when I used to train old bar staff and things like this, oh, Ethan, this is marzipan. I'd look at when were you eating our marzipan? So really, it's important to base your flavor notes on things that you are familiar with.
Right.
And the more you can do that, so I grew up in suburban New Jersey. My diet was found at 7-Eleven. So typically, if I'm going to taste a sweeter whiskey, I will compare it to a candy bar to start with, right? Take something as simple as a Twix. It's milk chocolate, it's cookie, and caramel.
Yep.
We're going to find all three of those things. As you get better equipped with tasting notes, the chocolate's going to change. Hey, this is more like a 70% dark, or this is an all dark, or this is bitter cocoa. Caramel, are we going to go towards a caramel sauce, or are we going to go to a burnt caramel? What kind of cookie are we talking? Shortbreads or butter, or
To your point, we have often found flavors that aren't on the bottle.
Correct.
And just been like, oh. And your point is so well taken that we should not feel
Obliged
to only be sourcing those flavors in our palate, because if we don't have that experience, how can we claim it?
You're not. So I write tasting notes for work all the time.
Yeah.
And I've been accused of my speech being a little bit flowery, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, me telling you what you should be tasting is not the goal. Me writing a tasting note that intrigues you to taste it is the goal.
Right. We talk about it. This is my experience.
Right.
Right. And you should have your experience.
Right. So when somebody writes a tasting note, understand that it is written by a marketing department that took probably a handwritten note or an email from the blender or distiller who cleaned it up and put it out there. I mean, one of the best... did you ever see the social media campaign for Lafroig? When they were giving Lafroig to newbies?
Right. Tell us about the Band-Aid and the gym sock that you just tasted. Yes.
Yeah. So you can embrace it pretty closely.
And be clever and sort of really be like, this is like a Band-Aid. Perfect.
But on the orange zest, this is one that's just confusing me because it's front and center on the label. They want you to know that. But I'm not getting it. But I do want to try this with an orange candy. those.
Well, we have an orange chocolate here.
Yeah, that I could see citrus brightening this up. This is a little brooding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little dark. It's
interesting word.
It's got a little Winona Ryder to it.
Ah,
I like
excellent. Well, you've put some water in. I've put some water in.
I have
Do you
not.
know how these work? You must, right? Yeah. No, unfortunately it's. We'll see if I can get it to go. It's a side.
I typically use a straw.
Right.
I'm classy like
We're
that.
New Hampshire.
Yeah. I am just failing all day here. I don't know what we're gonna do here, Ethan.
You're absolutely awful at that.
I am terrible at
That's
that.
fine.
There we go. A couple drops.
I did it. I tasted it already.
Did you? You're already ahead of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, here we
And
go.
what
A
happened?
couple of drops of water.
And I use this on a multiple times. It really does even it all out. I don't feel like I had that hurdle this time round. I felt like it just rolled right over my tongue. But again, if we're going to push the citrus thing, I
am
still
much
fighting
better.
for it.
I am much better with the water. The thin is gone. It's almost like it took some of the end moderation, brought it forward, leveled it out, and the flavor is much more consistent throughout.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the citrus. Sweet. And the vanilla still seems to be this vapor hanging around the edge for me. And the sherry remains present.
I would, without the water, I'd go with chocolate. With the water, I'd go with a creme brulee on this. But I'm still going to call it a dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, the evenness of the drink now with the water
Yes.
is very pleasant.
No, it's really funny because I love all my babies the same. I don't have favorites.
Yeah.
But in the coldest days of winter, I am attracted to high alcohol sherry exclusives. So the Aberlour Abuna, if you remember the Balvenie 15 single barrel, they did a sherry cask.
We have one here.
Yeah.
That was absolutely stellar, and the Glenfarclas 105.
Yes.
Those are so. For some reason, when it just gets that bone-numbing chill, that's what I go after, and I drink them as is. And I know it's a suicide mission. I get that. But I'm not drinking them all.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not drinking that year round or consistently. This seems like something different.
Yeah, I'm actually pleased with it. I've appreciated the no age statement conversation about remembering the youngest is the one that has to be labeled. And so keep that in mind. That's been really a good reminder, Ethan. I think we're just going to push forward and get to an accoutrement. I am going to do the orange chocolate.
Is it this one?
Nope. That's the 70%. So that's the orange. Thank you. Ethan, are you interested in orange chocolate?
That is exactly what I'm interested in.
I know that you're probably just going to gobble that whole plate down before the episode's over or the afternoon.
We'll see. I got the biggest piece.
Mm-hmm. The orange is very present in this chocolate. Let it melt in the mouth and add the whiskey. There is no resistance between those two flavors.
No.
It marries very well. It is in some ways it's a match.
The whiskey brings out the darkness of the chocolate.
And I
Just
that
draws it.
orange still lingers. So now I'm kind of going back
Yep.
to the label. Was there orange in there that was
Wait,
brought out,
wait!
or-
Is this extra orangey because of the whiskey, or
I
is
don't
it
know.
because of the orange in the chocolate? But the orange in that chocolate is very present.
I don't know. All I know is I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah.
No.
But like I said, that after a big meal,
Yep.
that whiskey brought out to the center of the table.
I'll take a short bit. I could
That's
definitely
a
see
dessert whiskey.
cigar relaxing with this.
Yeah. It's always struck me as funny, everybody, this idea, and we've been here many times, that we start to think about whiskey, Scotch whiskey, as dessert material, right? Because if you're new to the Scotch whiskey game, it's not something that you're thinking about in terms of as a dessert. there can be this reputation of Scotch as just being this smoky product that just puts people off from day one. And so again, you should have these experiences. You should talk to your friends and just realize there is such a range. Hence all the bottles around us, but all the bottling's available. So the Glenrothes, the whiskey's cut, no age statement, entirely sherry cast. We found a couple of drops of water, really leveled it out, and we all appreciated the dark chocolate orange infused.
Yeah.
Agreed, gentlemen? So why don't we come to our toast and wrap up this regular episode of Try Before We Die. Tonight, everybody, we are going to Indonesia, where they're one of their drinking toasts. And we will be reading from the left-hand side, because that's the pronunciation. They would say, to raise their glasses, they would say, Pro.
Pro. All right, got it.
All right. Excellent.
Lag behind you.
That's
Yep.
right.
All right. So the maker's cut. Glenrothes really benefited from a couple of drops of water. And though I struggled to get those 2 in there, I had that same struggle with mine, only 2 drops. And it made a difference. Would you agree?
It very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Right. And so this idea that just a couple of drops
Yeah,
of
I
water.
mean, I had that much in mine, and you could feel the difference.
Right. Just a couple of drops of water can really affect the flavor. And so it's not just snobby top behavior.
It isn't, and I think I'm going to pick one of those up.
With a bearded man and a British guy.